Hello everyone. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about bourbon unicorns. So what do I mean by that? I'm talking about extremely rare, hard to find bottles that just seem magical with how popular and hard to find they are. Finding one of these bottles is like finding that one little Lego piece that your kid lost in the couch 6 months ago. Yeah, it can happen. You can find it, but you might drive yourself crazy if that's all you look for all the time. So let's dive in. Thanks for tuning in today, everyone. Please like this video, and if you're enjoying what you're seeing, go ahead and subscribe to the channel so that way you're tuned in and ready to go for even more great content. Today we're talking about bourbon unicorns. So when I first started getting into bourbon and whiskey, I joined a Facebook group and I would see all these big name bottles that kept popping up, and I didn't really know what they were, or why they were so popular, but I just saw that everybody wanted them so badly. I thought, wow, these must be great bottles. These bottles are what are known as allocated bottles. In other words, there's only so many available, and each state gets their own distribution, their own amount of these bottles to sell for the entire state. These are bottles like Blanton's, George T. Stagg, Eagle Rare, Weller, Elmer T. Lee, Pappy. There's a lot of big names that are allocated bottles. So I saw all these bottles popping up and I thought, man, I gotta get some of this. So I would walk into a store and say, hey, do you have any Blantons? And I could just see the owner clearly how much of a noob I am trying to hide their laughter. You can't just walk into a place and get Blantons. It's unheard of. It's rare. And in Missouri, the way that it works is there's no regulation of pricing for these bottles. Store owners can charge whatever they want for bottles of bourbon. Whereas some states, like my home state of Ohio, the government dictates what these stores can sell bottles for. They have to be retail price. So there's retail price, and then typically double in that is secondary, and so on from there. Now, a lot of these allocated bottles in Missouri, at least right around where I am, near St. Louis, it's almost impossible to find them for retail price. I say almost, you can, but you gotta be really diligent. You gotta have really great intel. So for the most part, whenever I have come across one of these bottles, it's been way overpriced. One of the first bottles that I was able to obtain that was allocated is Weller Special Reserve. So this one right over here. It's one of the ones that I kept seeing everywhere and thought, oh, well, that sounds like a great bottle. I looked it up, researched the flavor profile, and kind of did a little digging to see what information I could get about it. It sounded good. So thanks to a friend who found it for me, I was able to get it at a decent price. I didn't really pay big bucks for it. So I got it, brought it home, tried a pour of it, and it was not very good. I didn't like it. I thought, man, I'm really glad that I didn't pay $60 for this little bottle that cost me 35 bucks. Retail is about 25 bucks. But in Missouri, I've seen it for $60. But I'm really glad that I didn't spend that much time and money on it, because I didn't like it. Since that first pour, I've come to enjoy it a little bit more, playing with ice and water, adding those to it. It helps, but I wouldn't buy it again. It's not a great bottle to me. I know some people love it, which is great. I don't love it. Now, I was able to go to a local restaurant recently and I got to try Blanton's for the first time. If you get into bourbon or whiskey at all, you will hear the name Blanton's, and you'll get to see, I'd show you, but I don't have one, a bottle, which is really cool. It's probably the coolest bottle I've ever seen. Just the shape and the design are really fun. The stopper on top has a horse on it. There's 8 different figurines of this horse with the letters that spell out Blanton's, and each one has a different position to show the horse racing. It's cool. So great marketing opportunity for this bourbon, and the popularity is insane. It is so highly sought after. It retails for around $60 or so, but here in Missouri, I passed one up at $90. I could have bought it in the wild for $90, and I had people tell me, "Oh my gosh, that's such a good price. I would have bought it." Well, I didn't, but I went to this restaurant, local place called the Rack House in Cottleville. Fantastic opportunity to try a bunch of great bourbons and whiskeys. You should absolutely check it out. Great food too. But I tried a pour of Blanton's. I was so excited, I thought I could finally see what all the hype's about and try this awesome bottle. It was similar experience to the Weller. I liked it, I did like it, but it certainly was not worth killing myself over trying to get. And again, there's some of you watching and say, "Oh my gosh, I love Blanton's. I would do anything to get it." Fine, that's totally fine. I don't blame you for it. If you love it, awesome. I didn't love it. I would never pay $90 for it. I'd probably grab a bottle if I found it at retail price, just because it's cool and it was pretty good. Now, when I first started in my bourbon journey, I started looking on different websites like the World Whiskies Awards and the San Francisco World Spirits Awards competition websites. Both of those groups have yearly competitions where they judge all kinds of spirits, vodka, gin, tequila, whiskey, you name it. And I looked at some of the past years at the top award winners to see, okay, what are the tastiest bottles that these judges liked? Maybe I can find one that's not super hard to get. So the first one that caught my attention was from 2018. It won the World Whiskies Award for Best Corn Whiskey. And also that same year, it won the silver medal for the San Francisco World Spirits Awards. That was a bottle called Balcones True Blue 100 Proof. Now, again, it's a corn whiskey, so it's not a bourbon. I know, calm down. It'll be okay. This was the first bottle that was my unicorn. And I say my unicorn because it was definitely off the beaten path. I had never heard anybody else talk about it, but it just caught my attention, and I was looking on their website and researching the flavor of it, and it just sounded so neat. Balcones is a Texas-based company. That's where it's distilled and produced. And I was able to find this bottle, again, through a friend who travels out of state and was able to get this. But when I first read about it, I was like, oh man, I haven't seen it anywhere in the stores around here. I never go to Texas, so how the heck am I supposed to get one of these? Again, thankfully through a friend. Honestly, I'll come back to this in a second. Honestly, that has been my biggest success, is teaming up with friends who are really big bourbon enthusiasts as well, especially if they travel and then go other states or other cities. There's a lot better chance that you're going to have luck finding hard to get bottles, because some states it's a lot easier to find allocated bottles, or it's easier to find bottles like this that aren't made around here. Another strategy that I've heard of a lot is people building relationships with liquor store owners or grocery store managers that handle the liquor department. Build a relationship, purchase bottles there frequently, just stuff you can find off the shelf. Chat with them, get to know them. That way you build a relationship and connection. You let them know you're interested and that you're a loyal customer, and they're more likely to give you an opportunity to buy some of these hard to get bottles when they first come in. Some people I've heard have gone as far as to buy bottles to give to the owners or the managers, or, you know, kind of bribe a little bit. I've heard some people go as far as buying bottles to share with the manager or the owner to really make inroads. I have not drank the Kool-Aid that much to get into that sort of scenario, but I definitely have utilized my network of friends as well as just explored my area around me to find what stores carry what. Some of them have apps that you can download and be able to see their inventory online, so you don't have to drive all over the place all the time. So I tried this bottle, and I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. It was a much better experience than the Weller. Here's the thing. It's still not my favorite bottle. My first Unicorn is not my favorite bottle. My favorite bottle so far is this one right here, Booker's Granny's Batch 2020-01. So, even though I thought it was going to be so great, and I read the reviews and I read the flavor profile and it sounded amazing, it's not the best bottle. It's really good and I love it, but it's not the best. So, let's go ahead and I want to share a pour with you guys, walk you through what it tastes like. So this is Balcones True Blue 100 proof. It's 100 proof. And it is a corn whiskey, so it's a little different than a true bourbon. So on the nose, I can get a flavor of, I get whiffs of caramel, and it's got kind of a corn scent to it, which is typical for a whiskey like that. It does have a little bit of spice that comes to the forefront. Let's have a sip. Okay, so one reason why I like this bottle a lot is the flavor is kind of an exciting journey. You start off, the first 0.2 seconds you think, oh, this is going to be a nice, mellow, velvety flavor to it. Caramel, buttery flavor, and then all of a sudden, pew, the spice hits. It's got a good spice kick to it. In my first video, I distinguished between alcohol burn and spice kick. This has no alcohol burn, it just has a nice flavor. It's kind of zingy. And again, the flavor with spice, it's more along the lines of like a baking spice, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, that sort of thing. But in this sense, it has the kick kind of like you would think like a spicy pepper, like a jalapeno. So it's got an interesting ride to this taste. Buttery caramel, vanilla at the first, and then ramps up to spice. Finishes on the spicy end. Doesn't have a very long, drawn-out finish, which is usually what you want, is more of a long, smooth finish, or just long finish to enjoy the full depth of the flavor profile. It has a very nice warming sensation in the throat and chest. With bourbon, that's what they call the Kentucky hug. In this case, it's a Texas hug. It's a very, very nice pour. I really enjoyed it a lot. It was very tasty when I had it with some barbecued meat. It was really nice. So, a bottle that I still love and enjoy a lot. Not my favorite though. Still worthwhile. Since then, I've found and tried 2 other bottles of Balcones. One called Brimstone, which is it's a cool whiskey. We'll talk about it sometime in the future. But also one called Baby Blue. I just got this one recently. This one is 92 proof, and just like the name implies, it's kind of like the little brother version of the True Blue 100 proof. It's not quite as intense. and it's a little more gentle of a ride. So I got this bottle from a local place, Grillo's Chop and Barrel. Wonderful place in Lake St. Louis, not far from where I live. They've got really high quality meat that you can get there, and a great selection of bourbon and whiskey. Mike, the owner, is a really great guy. He'll steer you in the right direction for getting a great bottle that you'll enjoy. So with Balcones, they've really started to expand their distribution, and now you can find this bottle and their Texas rye, their Texas pot distilled bourbon. I can think of 3 or 4 different places off the top of my head locally to me that have it. There's also a 4th one, their Texas single malt, that is also available at a couple places. So thankfully, Balcones is really starting to expand their distribution. They have a lot more in their lineup that is not widely available that I'm hoping to try sometime. But for now, let's talk about Baby Blue. Let's have a pour here. So, on the nose, this one it literally is like a little baby brother to the other one. It's got the same type of buttery caramel nose to it, but you can tell there's not as much of that factor. It's just a little more gentle and easy on the nose. So let's go ahead and take a sip. That is such a nice pour. It's the palate, the flavor of it is almost exactly what it smells like. The best, I guess one more sip. Buttered popcorn. More specifically, buttered caramel corn is exactly what this tastes like. And it has that smooth velvety intro, but with this bottle it sticks around longer. It's more velvety and mellow, and a little bit of a warming spice at the end, and still that nice warming Texas hug, but it's not as intense as the other one. So if you're looking for a more mild, easy to sip version, this is great. My gosh, this is really tasty. Yeah, no real fruity tones to this one so much. It's got like a strong corn flavor to it in a good way, and really buttery, caramely flavor. I mean, that's just really what hits me strong. The moral of this story is, don't go chasing unicorns unless you're really willing to put forth the time, money, and effort involved to do so. Maybe you'd really like those bottles, great. But don't assume that it's going to be love at first sip. Try it first, especially if it's a more expensive pricier bottle. Again, thanks for watching. Like this video, and please subscribe to the channel so that way you can be first to know about my next upcoming videos. Stay tuned.